Hello there, speed duelists. Welcome back to another bit of content. As you guys have seen, I have been doing a few Celebrity Showdown episodes, and one of the questions that people always ask is, what else is there? What else can we do and see and play in Speed Duel? So I thought I'd make a video talking about the top 10 decks in Speed Duel. Now, top 10, it's very relative, like each of these decks are good in their own way, so I don't really like doing top 10 content because it's always very opinion based, and in my opinion it's not really possible to make a definitive ranking of decks. But anyway, let's get into the numbers. So for this video I base myself on my metagame spreadsheet, and that contains data from 18 tournaments held in the current Speed Duel format. That includes YCS events, the winner boxes, and the Speed Duel dungeons before they started using a custom ban list. So let's have a look at those results. In the top index we see very similar as the Speed Duel metagame video. Dark Magician on top, followed by Arc Dragon variants, Battle City Bestie, Gearfried anti-meta, and so on and so on. So we see a lot of variations in top index. Now, if we have a look at winning decks, we see very similar decks. Gravekeeper has been doing very well lately. One deck that is missing here because the tournament hasn't concluded yet is Professor of Alchemy, but the finals is gonna be a mirror match. It hasn't been played yet, but one entry for Professor of Alchemy should also be here. I'm gonna do a couple of honorable mentions. These decks are all pretty valid in my opinion, but I had to make a choice of 10 decks, so these just fall outside of that. As I predicted, Exchange of the Spirits, it's a stall deck, alternate win condition, making the opponent go deck out. It did not make the top 10 because I feel like people are countering it always. So the results that it had were from quite a while ago. It has no wins, so that's why it's not in the top 10. Dark Scorpion is a deck that we see relatively often, especially in the Speed Duel showdowns as well. Same for Ra, but they just don't have the representation. Fossils has more representation, but it's very counterable, so that's why I'm not picking it in here. And of course, Iron Grid, the Gearfried deck, has no tops, has no wins. So I find that very odd because the deck feels very powerful to me, so that's why it's an honorable mention. Anyway, let's head into the top 10. And before that, I just want to tell you guys, all of the top 10 deck lists will be in the video description, so you can just download those and start playing them for yourself, start experimenting. I'm looking forward to sharing that with you guys. On 10, I'm gonna put the Odeon flip decks. Now, there are multiple variants for those. The variant that we see here is more aggro based, but some builds are more burn based. But these are the decks that play like the Odeon skill that lets you flip all monsters you control face down and then flip one of those face up again. And usually we see Gravekeeper Spy as one of the flip monsters. Deskoala, also a very popular pick. The build that we see here is more aggro based, with the Spies and the Descendant, also siding additional Gravekeeper cards. And I think it's a very tricky deck to pilot well. This build also playing the Medoras, the Gravekeeper Trap, so very interesting. So the first entry is gonna be Odeon Flip. Next entry is gonna be Coins. Now, this deck doesn't really have a lot of results, but I feel like it is a very powerful deck. You use the skill to enable cards like Cup of Ace, Twin Barrel Dragon, and the fusion monster is super powerful, especially floating into the Dogoran after it gets destroyed. That just feels like very good to me. I would be comfortable entering a tournament with this deck. Next, we have Professor of Alchemy, a bit of a breakout deck in the most recent winner box tournament, where we had 2 players entering with them, and they made it all the way to the finals when this video goes live. the tournament will probably have concluded. But yeah, it's a very grindy deck, a bit of a slower base deck, but you do consistent damage thanks to the alchemy tokens that can attack directly. Furthermore, Macrocosmos is a very powerful card. It disrupts any graveyard strategy, and there's a lot of graveyard-based effects in Speed Duel. You have the Armed Dragons, you have Joker's Knights, plenty more of those. Plus, Macrocosmos enables you to play the Grand Convergence, which is a field wipe, so that's pretty strong. The skill allows you to trigger the effects of DD Destroyer and DD Survivor, so you have continuous advantage through those. You have your Rotas to search those out, so fairly consistent deck, and yeah, they're only gonna get better from here on. Next up we have Amazonas, and Amazonas is one of those decks that can be played in multiple different ways. This build plays the Room for Growth skill and has a few more low-level monsters to facilitate that. But you can also play Amazonas with Battle City Bestie, more of a control-based deck. Amazonas has very high consistency because you can play the Triple Princess, the Double Call. If you play with Battle City Bestie, that one is limit 2 as well, so you play one fewer call, but yeah, that's fine, still very consistent, 5 starters. Your trap, Amazonas Onslaught, is excellent, turns all your monsters into one-sided DD Warrior ladies basically, and you have big beat sticks thanks to the effect of the skill as well as the Calciphilia, the Crusted Cataclysmic. So that's why I'm placing Amazonas on position 7. Next up we have the Knights, the Poker Knights. Again, many different variations to play this deck. This deck is playing the Battle City Slugger skill, you know, that lets you search Guildfords and tribute summon it, but you can also play this with Battle City Bestie, of course. We recently saw a deck siding from one skill into the other. There's also a variant of this deck that combines it with the Gear Feeds, the Iron Knights, and the Chain Traps, so that's very powerful. Joker's Knight, as I mentioned before, is an incredible monster. It just, yeah, you add it from the graveyard to the hand every turn, so it's an advantage monster really. And Slugger, as I mentioned before, this deck is also playing Jinzo, which is one of the cards that you can put back from your hand into the deck to draw one with the skill, so very interesting. Not sure whether this is the optimal way to play it, but you know, Guildford, it's so much fun to play it. Alright, next up we have the Bestie Good Stuff deck. Very weird deck, but it does have the results. It basically combines 3 powerful engines. First you have your Magic Rebo with the Dark Magician brick, your Joker's Knight with the King's Knight brick, and then Gravekeepers with the Descendant as a brick, quote unquote. It combines these engines with several powerful staple cards, the Solna Luna, Swords, Quaking Mirror Force, and packs additional removal with cards like Grandmark and the Fisher. So this deck did pretty well in a few tournaments, and I played it myself in one of the videos, and when everything goes according to plan, it's just super powerful, it feels unstoppable. So that's why I'm placing it at 5. Next, now we're getting into the big ones. First off is Gravekeepers. This deck had like a rogue status for a really long time, but then Keebler won an event with it, and it's been a mainstay ever since. This is, I think, one of his builds. This one had a very big Gravekeeper package, and yeah, you can also play it with the Odeon flip deck because Spy is such an insane card. Necro Valley really was the cherry on top for this deck, because not only does it give you the graveyard locking effect, it also makes your Gravekeepers just really big, like the 2000 attack Descendant, the 2500 defense Spy. That's tough to get by, especially with the triple Quaking Mirror Force, triple Book of Moon, triple Soul and Luna. It just keeps going. Yeah, so a very powerful deck, and in my opinion, one of the best decks in Speed Duel. There's only a few decks that I really think are better than this one. And one of them is my favorite deck in Speed Duel, Dark Magician. Thanks to both Magic Rebo and the skill, it's easy to get your Dark Magician onto the board. and the skill then lets you tutor for the dark magic attack or the Thousand Knives, so you have always built-in removal, and you have a lot of deck slots for, you know, your tech cards, so there's a lot of innovation going. I know Delegatus is a big fan of Dark Magician and is always coming up with new spicy techs for the deck. We saw him on Double Custom a while back. This deck can also be played with Dark Magician Girl. You can then include Sage's Stone, you can play the Legion, the Fiend Chester. So there's a lot of different possibilities if you want to play Dark Magician. So I think that's really cool. It's a deck that I really like, that I very comfortably enter tournaments with, have won tournaments with in the past. So yeah, Dark Magician definitely one of my personal favorites. Second place is then the Battle City Bestie Gearfried anti-meta deck. What a mouthful, what a mouthful. But I don't just want to call this Gearfried Stun, because negative connotations. But this deck, it has two main monsters, your Gearfried and your Fossil Dyna, and both of them work excellently with chain trap cards. Blast with Chain, Kunai with Chain. Not only do they protect your Floodgate monsters, but they also trigger your Gearfried. Especially Blast with Chain is super powerful. It's an easy 2-for-1. And combining that with the Battle City Bestie skill, you're just drowning in card advantage, really. So really one of the best decks in Speedle at the moment. But there's one big guy that I place even higher. It is the Hard Armed Dragon skill. Now, Melody of Awakened Dragon, one of the most powerful cards in all of Speedle, immediately tutoring the Armed Dragon Whites. And thanks to the skill, you always have room for discarding cards. So discarding the regular Armed Dragon, and that puts more than 4,000 damage on board already. Now, this is also one of those decks that has a lot of different variations. The Hard Armed Dragon variation is the most powerful one, the one with the most tournament results, but you can play this with a lot of things like the dice cards, the Crystal Beasts, which offer a lot of removal options, and the Slime deck even has seen some success. So guys, all of these decks will be available for downloads in the description below. So yeah, if you tested out one of these decks, let me know what your experience was. And this was Ryan Atlas. Thank you for watching. Make sure to like this video and subscribe if you haven't also already. Bye!